This is a guide on the Big T system, how to put everything together, how everything works, and a few tips here and there for what you'll need to get up and running. So we'll start off with what goes first on the camera. So I'll go in order of how you should assemble it. And then sometimes there's certain parts that you'll leave assembled because you don't really need to be, taking them apart so often. That's going to be up to you to decide depending on what parts of the system you're going to use. So some of you will go just the big roid route, which is these pieces plus the lens and the diffuser, or the big wide route, which is these right here. So or the big large route, which is actually these two here and the rangefinder. So this system is designed for one rangefinder to be able to serve you for three, potentially more different film formats. With this, you can also do the 3x4 and shoot a big shot, 3x4 peel apart film as well. It's designed for one rangefinder to be used with all the backs. They're all aligned as far as the film plane goes. So it's just going to be essentially your framing is going to change. So much tighter portrait on the Polaroid, a little bit more stretched out on the Instax wide. And then you've got your 4x5, which will give you a little bit more shoulder, more head space, potentially couples getting up in there. So we'll start off with the A section here. It's at the very front. The front standard already comes permanently attached. What you're going to want to keep note of are these lock screws here. So you turn them all the way in and they'll lock. This one's locked open. You keep turning it, and it's designed so when the end of the thumb screw is level with the top of the 3D print, then you can move it. So it's about that gapping, if you can see there. All right, now I normally like to leave the bottom one locked, and I just do a slide and lock for the lens. So we'll do that here. Slide it down, pop it in, and press it. So you could leave it like that if you want. You don't have to lock it, but just for peace of mind, you can lock it. And you may decide to just leave it permanently and always carry it like this instead of always taking the lens apart. That's how I do it. I just put this in one big old padded piece with the lens cap and then extra padding up here, and then it stays nice and secure. Now, if you're going to go the big roid and big wide, you're going to want to attach the film backs to their sections first before putting it on the rest of the camera. All right, so I'll go ahead and show you how that goes in. So at the back, you have your 4 keyhole slots that align with these 4 on the RB67 back. Now, this is not universal. Not all RB67 backs will work with this system. If they do it just like I do, where it's just one foam pad all the way around and it's not mechanically sealing, then it's got to be able to slide and lock. So if you can do that with those backs, then it should work, but I'm not familiar with all of them. So once you've got it in there, you lock it in place, and this prevents you from, when you're pulling the film out or pulling the dark side out, you're not going to move it from there. All right, so we got film back on that side for the Polaroid. Now the big wide, the lomograph lock section is a little bit tricky. So you want to put it in this orientation first with the cold shoe facing you. And then you'll want to and then check that this lock is pushed all the way out of the way, and check that your this grip is a lock itself, locking mechanism. So this is a weird, unorthodox 4x5 style of locking. Really works well with this, but it's designed to just make it a much, much smaller footprint because it essentially is just, the same here. So I could have as well done that, but didn't want to. This is a spin-off of the Ligero LG system. So you see where that channel is in the lomograph lock? Right there. You're going to want to align that with this section right here. Like so. Let me put it on the blue so you can see it. That's why I got this blue, so you can better see what I'm seeing. So you line that up and you press down up here. You turn it over, and it should have fallen into place there. So you can press down on the grip lock, and that should lock in place. And then this swings around and locks like so. Inspect your work. Everything looks good. Everything is aligned. Everything is nice and flat. We have got an Instax wide back ready to go. All right. Now, if you're going to use any of these two, you're going to want to add the B section to your A section here. So you want to align, and sometimes the magnets will help you. And then the way I unhook it is from the bottom, I basically push up like that with your fingers up here. It doesn't fly off because the magnets want to bring it back down, so it's nice and secure. You don't have to worry about like bobbling it. I mean, if you do once it's off, but at least here it wants to keep, even one-handed, it wants to keep coming back into place. So that's how it comes together. The magnets help you out. If you ever feel like it's too loose for you, these are Phillips screws, so just tighten them in increments. But we've got our A and B section, and now we're ready to add one of these. All right, so let's say we're gonna go with the Polaroid. Pretty much the same way, the magnets help you most of the way there. And now here's where we will add the rangefinder. So you see the 4 keyhole slots there, the rangefinder attaches with these 4 screws. Same principle applies, tighten these if it loosens up on you. You want to put them in there and then slide it forward. Sometimes you need to jiggle it a little bit and then press the lock in there. Right, so now it's on there pretty firmly. Right, now this version of the front standard does have these 2 tripod sockets to which you can add something like so. So let's go ahead and add that so you can see what that looks like. And there you go. So now you've got a very pro rig here when you're out there shooting. And this really is designed for events. So events are very fast, lots of production, I should say, high production rate of shooting. That's what I love about it. When I go to Polacons, I'm able to get through 3 cartridges of film, even Polaroid film, kind of in a blink of an eye. But yeah, so we've got it assembled this far. Then the next steps is to just finish it off with our diffuser, which is magnetic. Now, one pro tip here is you can remove these. They are Fresnel business size cards. You can put in between them your choice of cellophane, colored cellophane, or colored gels, or craft your own device here. Choose your own adventure. So that's very customizable. Pops right on. This rail is customizable. Just loosen the screws and you can move it back and forth. I do so if you decide you're going to use it with this, then just loosen them up and then move it all the way forward so you can put this as close as possible. Not too close if you're going to have cellophane on there, because it will cook it over time, or get thicker cellophane, or put the cellophane towards the front instead of towards the back. But this will, it's so hot that it will bake your thin cellophane there. So all right, now let's talk about the flashes. These are the flashes of choice, and then obviously you could do remote. Take this off, put your remote on there. To me these days, that's the most ideal, because it's such a professional tool really when it comes down to it, that you want to use it with a remote and a couple of strobes, maybe 3 strobes, or whatever you've got. But now, especially with the 4x5 now, probably a whole lot more worth it. But as far as the onboard flashes, if you want to add one on the top, you're gonna want the 252 most of the time, because it is the most popular choice. It is the most widely available. Do make sure that it's tested, because there's so many of them, but at the same time, there's so many of them that are junk. So keep that in mind. Next available, I think I usually find these a lot more than these 2 flashes. So the Agfilux C for your high power flash cubes. Those are the ones that I recommend, the red high power flash cubes. There's also the long shot, whichever ones are the red ones. It's usually the nicest look with this setup. Now, if you could find these much smaller, much lighter electronic flashes, the Nissan MC30 and its rebadged Sears cousin, the Sears 003. So both hard to find. I will tell you, you're probably competing with me a lot of the time. If you're looking for those, I buy them up as soon as I find a tested one that's within my price range. But some people do ask for a lot of money, especially for the Nissan. They ask for 30 plus bucks, and I don't think that's worth it. I'd much rather try this for a while until one of those comes up. And then these, I think you could still find them under 20. I haven't looked in a year. Hopefully they're not bad right now, but those are your flash options. All right, now let's go to the different back systems. So the way to do this is I actually leave the rangefinder on there because it's going to be a lot easier to take the rangefinder off when we remove this part. But you don't have to if you can get your finger in there, especially on the Polaroid. It's a tight fit because of the control module. So if you can get the switch in there, then wiggle it out. Leave that there. And now let's toss on the big wide. You can do this like so too on the table if you're not comfortable doing it midair. The magnets eventually find themselves. And yeah, there you have it. So I'm holding it by one grip here. You should not do that. Tried to hold it with two grips. I'm at the very least holding one here and then cradling it from the bottom because it is a pretty heavy setup. I've tried to make it as sturdy as possible. I'm trying to only make them in carbon fiber materials so that they are very sturdy, but at the end of the day, it is something that's got a whole lot of load on it. So please baby it in your shooting. It's definitely not going to survive a drop, more than likely. So be careful with it. Now, lastly, let's try the 4x5. So for the 4x5, we only need the front A section. This basically stays with that back there. And the rangefinder, we do want to wiggle off here. So those two out of the way now. Make sure that the tripod socket is in the bottom. You could use it on a tripod. The tripod socket at the bottom is really there for calibration reasons. I had to add it to make it easy for myself, but most of the time I don't think you're going to be using it on a tripod. You can though, because if you're at f22 or f32, you probably could set up a nice zone with a backdrop and it's always going to be in focus in that range. But yeah, this ends up being a super light setup, ironically, the 4x5, even with a Graphmatic on here or a PA45 or a 405 back. Those are very lightweight backs. Wiggle it on there, hit the switch. And yeah, there it is. Now with a 252, I don't recommend you tighten it all the way on this type of cold shoe. Halfway is fine. And then do be careful with the bottom. Sometimes the bottoms are poking out, so if it is, it will get caught in the middle there and you'll probably ruin it, so it won't be able to be used as a hot shoe anymore. But you're using it with a cable anyway, so maybe that's not so bad if this is its only use. Let's wrap that around here. Now this up here, you're going to want to thread in some sort of cable release. This grip was not the right one to use here because it angles that way, but it can be flipped around, so it should be reversed the other way. But there's a grip that I have. If you're getting that one, I actually did not have it in here. But it comes with the MRBP system. This same grip can attach to the front here. And it's got a hole for either through the back here or through the front if you want it to be a pistol grip trigger or a thumb trigger in the back. Just connect it right there and then run your short little 5-inch, probably 3-inch, something like that, short little cable. So for focusing, there are no masks because it's just 3 formats, and you'll see right now, but that red line on there will completely blur out, so it's hard to see anyway if you did draw frame lines on there. But yeah, the name of the game is, you see how it's moving around, you want to center the green patch to the red square. It'll be a little blurry in your view, but you gotta practice with it. But sometimes I like to I move from the back, I move my head back, and then bring my head in slowly and then I do the shuffle, so I'm sure I'm at least centered, right? But yeah, that's the way you focus. And that's the focus view. Though it doesn't overlap perfectly, so just because there's no corrective element in there, but the centers do overlap perfectly. So once you're focused, the centers should overlap. I usually go for like the teeth line or a nostril or something like that. If they've got a nose ring, those are very helpful. Just, you know, center on it. But it's pretty forgiving anyway at f6.8 if you're ever shooting wide open. Yep, that's the big T and how it comes together. I think I've pretty much covered all you need to know. You've seen how it comes apart. Again, the biggest one is just don't try to put on the heavy backs on it while it's fully assembled, because I mean, at least do it over a soft surface, a pillow or a bed or something like that, or right above your bag. That's fine if you've got to, or right on a table, because it's just too much weight to be moving around and trying to do. You're going to be one-handed at one point. So if you've got sure hands, go for it. Get a feel for the system. But I've got to recommend the safest avenue possible for you in this build, because we want it to last a long time. So yeah, if you've got any questions, you know where to find me. And yeah, enjoy your Big T camera system.